And we forgot to welcome our most special guest, Ernest.
Ernest.
He is ready for his time on stage. He is truly the dog of Autumn Chase.
Yes. He's been on every set since August that I've worked on. He's been my little mascot. He really enjoys it. He loves coming to work with me. He makes friends everywhere he goes. On The Walking Dead, he was hanging out in the wardrobe office all day long while I worked. They had dogs in the office that he loved. Lunchtime, he'd come running out. He'd beg at every table until people gave him scraps, and then he'd go back in. It was like day camp for him.
But he didn't watch your pivotal scene, right?
I don't think
because he's going to need canine therapy if he saw that.
Yeah, I didn't show him the scene where I got killed. I don't think he would have liked it. He's seen other episodes of Walking Dead, and he actually growled and ran away from the television. Truly, he did. He doesn't like walkers.
No one does. I mean, come on.
They're scary.
Like, really. Before we talk about Nashville, which is amazing and like totally back in the form that it needs to, like it's got everything. I want to ask you about singing at the Grand Ole Opry, which you just did. I mean, was that like one of those pinch me, most surreal lifetime moments ever?
Yes. My parents were there, and my dad sort of summed it up best. I said to him as I was saying goodbye at the airport a few days later, "I'm so glad you were there." And he looked at me and he said, "I'm kind of still there." And I thought, that's right. I'm kind of still there too. It was so warm and welcoming, and instead of being scary, because it's 4,400 people, it's by far the biggest audience I've ever played my songs in front of. We had one rehearsal about 30 minutes before I took the stage in a little stage right sort of pit where the drummer just had a little can he was banging on, and the pedal steel player was just listening because his steel was plugged in on the stage. So the first time I heard it with the Opryland Band was live, and I couldn't have imagined how perfect it would be. You know, it just felt like the best audience, the best venue. There's something magical about the history in those walls, and it's such an honor.
You seemed so calm. Like when you just walked up to the piano, you were like, "Hey." Hey, no big deal. What? And you were amazing. I mean, were you just shaking on the inside?
No. Honestly, I think now that I'm out here with everybody, I'm relaxed. But I tend to get a little more of the butterflies when I'm playing for small groups. But no, I wasn't. I felt so comfortable there. It's got more to do with the Opry itself, I think. There's just some magic.
And the legacy of it.
And the sound is amazing. It's like you're up on stage and it feels like you're in your living room because the sound is so present. And it's not like you can't see the audience. They're right there. You look up and there's 4,400 faces. But they're just there to have a good time.
Well, your voice is pretty incredible, and the reviews of your music have been sensational, so congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I mean, it's like you're actually the real deal. And I read that you were a child prodigy in music.
Well, I started taking piano lessons when I was 7, and I competed for about 7 years. At one point, I was taking 4 lessons a week and thinking about the possibility of maybe being a classical pianist as a career. But I had also made my first movie when I was 7, and I...
Dune.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm sure one of you might have heard of it.
Yeah. I mean, that just stumbled into my life, and it changed my life forever because at the age of 7, I discovered something I was going to want to do forever. I couldn't believe that grown-ups got to make a living doing what, as a kid, we do anyway, just playing characters and acting out these scenarios. And Dune was, at the time, the biggest budget film ever made. It was like this giant playground with enormous sandworms and special effects and actors that had been doing it their entire lives and were well-adjusted, incredible, intelligent human beings. I think for my parents, that was interesting to them to see as well, because they got a great, accurate impression of what actors are generally really like. They're not all the ones we read about in the tabloids, you know?
And that brings us right up to Nashville, because you play one of the ones we read about in the tabloids, sadly.
Yeah, kind of.
A very talented woman. I mean, really, she has major, major chops, but who also is very ambitious and diabolical and manipulative and petty, I would say.
Yeah. You know, I didn't know who she was when I first, not that, I mean, I love playing her, but I didn't get a script or anything before I came on to do it. And
Really?
No, the audition for it was simply they listened to my last record. And then suddenly it happened, and I knew some aspects of Autumn's personality, but I think others of them were sort of revealed to me as the scripts came in and as we were shooting, and like that glare that I gave to Scarlett in the last episode, that was sort of the last take we did. And they were like, just for variety, let's try if you really look after her. Like, okay, now I'm gonna get you. And I was like, okay. So yeah, we sort of discovered that diabolical side together.
And it should be noted that everyone on the show can sing in real life. I think that's a key part of the casting process.
Yeah.
So does being on the show basically merge the two loves of your life?
Yes. Yeah. I've wanted to be on it since it first started airing, and I don't think I've missed an episode, because as a singer-songwriter, I don't think there's ever been a show that takes you so completely from the process of inception of a song all the way through to performing it for an audience. And it shows how what's going on in your real life can inform the songs that you write and the songs you choose to sing on any given night. It's very accurate in that way. And I love the fact that as a viewer, I know I'm watching the real performances of these actors. There's nobody on it who's just lip syncing or that sort of thing. So to be part of it and to get to go into the studio and record and do something that I'm already so comfortable in a different world, and to be on set doing it too was so such a dream. And to live in Nashville, which is one of my favorite cities for many reasons. Yeah, I miss Nashville already. I have to go back soon.
Come on, I mean, you're in New York in the springtime.
That's true. New York in the springtime is
You can't pick a better time to come here.
No, there couldn't be a better time.
But truly, one of the things I think that Nashville captures so well is, I don't want to say the addictive, but what's the word I'm looking for? I guess the reason that people can't quit the stage. I mean, in the last episode, Raina, played by Connie Britton, who's like everyone's hero, goes back on stage because she's so hooked on that feeling. What is it like when you're performing in front of a crowd that big and they're all there for you?
Well, obviously, I mean, for me, that's a dream. I normally don't play for crowds that big except at the Opry. But no matter how big the crowd is, I think anyone who performs music gets a real ache and longing for it if you go any length of time without doing it. Because especially if, I mean, my experience is obviously as an actor who's always wanted to make music, and then I finally got brave enough to start doing it in public a few years ago. And I think the contrast between playing characters, which feels very safe to me at this point, even if it's revealing a lot of myself, I can sort of pretend it isn't because it's a character. But playing music is 100% me, and it's whether the song is about something I went through or something that someone else went through that inspired me, it's still very, very personal. And when someone comes up to me after a show and they tell me that a song describes a situation they've experienced or that they're going through, or that this song helped them get through a breakup. I can't compare that to anything I've experienced as an actor. And I miss it desperately if I go more than a month without playing a show.
It's true. When you think of the formative moments in your life, it's punctuated by music, not really by something you've seen or read, right?
Absolutely. The songs that you listen to 10 times in a row because you can't believe that song just gets into your skin and sums up a feeling you don't have words for and you could never express.
What's a song that you wish you'd written?
I mean, Tom Waits' Take It With Me is just an unbelievable song. Stevie Wonder's Overjoyed.
Good taste.
There's a Sean Colvin song called Polaroids that just slays me. There's so many amazing songs.
And speaking of amazing, what is it like working with Connie Britton?
She's lovely.
I mean, she literally is, I think one of the most beloved actors working today.
Yeah, and she's everything you would hope for in person. We didn't get to work together on Friday Night Lights, but I was on a few seasons of that. And so I got to meet her very briefly, but she's one of those actors that whenever anyone found out I was doing Nashville, everyone unanimously says, wow, you get to work with Connie Britton. Because she's so good at what she does. She breaks your heart week after week. And she's so beautiful in person, especially without makeup on. And, you know, especially for big network television shows, you end up wearing more makeup, I think, than on some of the cable shows where it's a bit grittier. And so I was just so taken aback by how gorgeous she is in the morning. And of course, Ernest came to work every day, and her hair and makeup stylists had turkey bacon, and he much preferred hanging out in Connie's corner of the trailer to mine because I'm vegan, so there was no turkey bacon on my end. But he could always be found sitting.
I have no words for comfort for Ernest on that one. But I hear they make very good doggy vegan treats now.
Yeah,
they do, right?
They do, and most dogs like all sorts of things. I personally don't. I believe that dogs should be omnivores, but I mean, he loves vegetables and fruits and peanut butter treats and all kinds of stuff.
How did you get him?
Oh, he is from an amazing organization called Take Me Home out of Santa Monica, California. He had been returned to the shelter at least once. He arrived at the shelter at 8 months old, was adopted, returned at 10 months old, skinnier than he was when he was adopted, and full of worms, not fixed, not trained, and just so full of this self-possessed, confident attitude that he still has. It's like nothing phases him. And he was so obviously neglected and ignored. And it's been amazing to watch him develop and build his confidence and build his affection. But he's just an incredible little guy. And it's staggering to think he was in a pound where he could have been euthanized because there's just not enough room in the city pounds for all the dogs and cats, most of whom are good animals that are not aggressive or dangerous. So I love organizations like Take Me Home or so many others throughout the United States that take dogs out of the shelters where they're at risk of death and put them in foster care until they can find their forever home.
And look at him, he's just owning the stage.
He really
is. Like when you said he's unfazed by anything, I'm like, well, there you go. Case in point.
Yeah. I think he's listening to the monitors right now. He's like, that's so weird. The sound is coming out of the speakers,
Mommy's
and yet they're right
voice
here.
So between we can say that you died on The Walking Dead, right? I mean, at
Yes.
this point, it's not a spoiler.
No, unless you're woefully behind on The Walking Dead.
But between the best death scene, I think, in the history of TV, and you performing on Nashville, what's been, if you could compile a highlight reel of the past year, what would it include?
All of The Walking Dead. And then that would leave about, 2 minutes for other? No. I mean, that was just its own special thing. It's like you can sort of put everything else in its own category, and then there's that, because I didn't know what I was auditioning for. That show is obviously notoriously secret. I mean, once I did the role, I couldn't tell anybody for months and months.
Wait. You couldn't tell people that you were on the show?
Not until it aired. I was allowed to announce in February that I was excited to be joining the cast. I had already filmed it at the beginning of October.
That's insane. So when people asked where you were going to work, you had to say, like, what?
I told my 3 bestest friends. And aside from that, I kept it a total secret, because people are just so amped up about that show that they'll take any little nugget. And I wasn't allowed.
Idea
so
secrecy was that intense.
Yeah. And then until it aired, until the preview episode that showed I was going to be on the next week's episode, it was implied that I was joining the cast for the next season. So I wasn't allowed to say when I was appearing, who I was playing, or anything. But when I first joined the show, Scott Gimple, the showrunner, had reached out on Twitter and said he had heard me on a podcast. And I was so flattered, because I knew who he was, and told him I was a big fan of his. And a few days later, this audition came along from him. And it was, goodness gracious. Oh, he is hearing the monitors. Ernest, it's okay.
You know what it is, Alicia? Ernest is like, Mommy, please never go back on The Walking Dead.
Don't talk about
Please
the
don't
walkers.
See? He's like, not the walkers. No.
No, but he reached out to me, and I auditioned. It was a scene in a bank where I was playing a bank robber and holding somebody hostage at gunpoint. But it didn't give any indication of what my character would be on the show itself. I got the part the next night. I got a phone call, and I was on a plane to Atlanta the next morning, still not having a script. And I received that script, and if you've seen the episode, you just know it's a staggering guest star role. To have that much backstory, to have that much to do, to have that full-fleshed of a world, and then to be gone, I just couldn't wish for any more. And then, of course, to have the epic death, to get to work with that cast and have that sort of mirror image thing going on between Paula and Carol was incredible.
And let's take a few audience questions now, please.
Hey, Alicia, good evening. Catherine McPhee was here earlier in the week with her dog. I think you and Ernest are giving her a big run for her money.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You guys are show stealers. I'm a big animal person, so I loved all that. My question for you is, I've always been curious about playing the piano, or just music in general, and sometimes I get overwhelmed with starting. What's the best advice you could give for a person who doesn't really have any background in that and wants to maybe give it a shot?
You know, I'm trying to learn how to play the guitar at the moment, and I'm having a similar struggle. And I think what's been most helpful for me with learning how to play a new instrument as an adult is try to learn a favorite song first. Instead of, because it's just too frustrating to have to sit there and practice scales and chords. I've been trying that for a long time now with the guitar, and I'm just not getting anywhere. And I find it's much better now that I've started to learn a few of my favorites, or even a few of my own songs. So pick out a song like Blackbird, or I don't know, something on the piano that's not too complex but interesting enough that it'll give you a thrill when you know how to play it. And then pick another one after that, and before you know it, you'll start to recognize similar chord patterns and chords, and you'll realize you know things that you didn't have to sit down and go through a manual to learn.
Alicia.
Hi.
What would you say is the most prominent theme in your music?
Oh, I think that's a lovely question. Thank you so much. Catharsis, maybe? I tried to find some sort of positive, even if it's a sad song or if it's about something that was difficult for me to get through. I try to find a way of expressing how it helped me. I try to also write in a way that the song can mean something different as years go by. And if I write something that feels like it's so specific that it doesn't feel to me like it could apply to something someone else is going through, then I try to tell it a different way, because if I can't think someone else is going to relate to it, I also know I'm not going to relate to it in a few years. I want everything to be about some way of expressing it that we can all identify with, if that makes sense. That's what I try anyway. Thank you for asking.
And we have time for one more question, please.
Hi, thank you for being here. Which artist or band influences your style of music?
A lot of the piano rockers do, like the classic ones, Billy Joel, Elton John, Sarah Bareilles, and then a lot of the simple sort of folk singers, such as some of the Bob Dylan stuff, definitely Tom Waits. I love his chord progressions. I also am really influenced by the big band era, that classic songwriting style where you've got that hooky chorus and these beautifully poetic lyrics, but it's kind of deceptively simple. I don't know. I like so many different things. I love country music, and I don't know. There's a lot.
And when can we watch Nashville?
Nashville is on tonight. It's on every Wednesday, 10 o'clock on ABC.
And you have to see this lovely, gracious, elegant lady play. I think we could safely say you're polar opposite. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, she's I will say we have a lot of fun because I'm putting the moves on the character of Gunnar in it, who's played by the very adorable young Sam Palladio. And my character is just shamefully hitting on him, and it's kind of fun. I'm very naughty.
Please stay for Alicia's performance. She will perform some of her music, which is fantabulous. That's not even a word, and I apologize, but that's what it is fantabulous.
Thank you.